Alright, the new lighting is all upstairs. Isn't that a great place for it? So using old-fashioned incandescents, let's look over something that I read online today. The Toronto Maple Leafs have too many forwards, so how do we fix that? So I just did a quick look on Cap Friendly. Okay, Leafs fans. I'm just figuring out the top 12 forwards. I don't really care who's on what line. So, the number one candidate to get moved out, as always, is poor James Van Riemsdyk, who all he's done is play a very solid two-way forward game, and Leafs fans will always say, well, he's the most expendable, sort of like Canuck fans about Tanev. He's a useful top six forward. Now, obviously, you got Brown, I got Brown down here, I got Hyman up here, I got Marner down here. It's a little bit muddled. There's a lot of young talent in Toronto. Honestly, I wouldn't be trading out Van Riemsdyk, but I wouldn't be trading out Nylander, so I'm not going there either. I'd be more likely to look at a guy like a Brown or a Kapanen. Not Gauthier and Reichel because they don't have the value. I understand that the cap is part of the reason why JVR would make sense. I get that. I get that JVR is the second highest paid forward. I'm going to go ahead and look. I'm sure he is. No. Well, yes. Of players who are actually on the roster, he's the third highest paid at $4.25 million, and he's a UFA at the end of this coming season. Now, here's the funny thing. Has JVR played so well that he can demand $5-6 million next year? Maybe. And with, you've got big contracts coming up to Matthews in 2 years. Nylander's a year away. Marner's 2 years away. So this is your contract Armageddon right here. Nylander, looking at the money that's been thrown around, I would think Nylander's going to cost him a minimum of $6 million. Minimum of $6 million. Marner, I'll say $6.5 million if he keeps up what he's been doing. Matthews, $8.5 to $10 million, just because they're fantastic. So let's just say top at the end, $22 million for these three. I can't see Van Riemsdyk being what breaks him. I can't. And here's the thing too. So Van Riemsdyk, well, we've got to move somebody out because we need help on the blue line. You've got Riley, Zaitsev. Zaitsev's got a huge contract. Gardner has finally started to show himself as a top four defenseman. Toronto fans seem to love Connor Carrick. Hainsey just got signed for 2 years. Marchenko and Marincin are number 6, number 7. It doesn't matter. And Rosen and Borgman were signed in the offseason. They're question marks because those guys are going to push for jobs. Lou Lamoriello didn't acquire them as free agents because he plans on sticking them in the American League. He believes these guys, one of them at the very least, and maybe both, will end up being 5-6, and maybe Carrick and Marchenko move out. If Rosen and Borgman are what they're supposed to be, what was said about them when they were signed, then defense is kind of fixed for Toronto. Kind of. Riley's fantastic. Zaitsev is a very solid defenseman. I know. Don Cherry went off about Zaitsev a lot. And I want to make a statement here regarding Don Cherry. There's a lot of people say a lot of things. He's bigoted, he's racist, he's this, he's that. I don't see it that way. His generation was raised hating the whole European movement. And you know, for European players. He remembers 72 Canada Cup. I don't. It was before my time. I wasn't born yet. He remembers a lot of the crap that went down between the Soviets and the Canadians in the 70s, 80s. He's at a stage in his life where you're not going to change Don Cherry. I don't believe he is as bigoted as people think. I think it's sort of like, and I've had family members like this where they'll say something and you go, oh, you don't mean that. Yes, I do. Okay, wait. Now, Ron McLean can't really back Don Cherry up. He tries. He tries to back him up and get him to clarify and fix his position. When he starts going off about Zaitsev, there's a bias there. But I also think that there are some Toronto fans who see Zaitsev as being better than he is. I think he's a good defenseman. I think there's something to be said on both sides. I think Zaitsev is a solid top 4 defenseman. I do think he's overpaid. But again, it seems like in everything these days, you're either 100% for or 100% against something. So either you love Zaitsev or hate him, and the people who are in the middle kind of get shouted out. I'm in the middle. I don't think Toronto has a massive problem on their blue line. I also don't think Van Riemsdyk fetches you a top 4 blue liner right now. Because here's the question. Which team in the NHL right now is bleeding defensemen? Vegas. So you trade James Van Riemsdyk to Vegas. What does Vegas currently have on the market? Lucas Biza. Lucas Biza basically is a number 6 guy in Toronto. Lucas Biza is not the answer for Toronto. So who else has too many defensemen? Nashville has been rumored for a while to be moving out a defenseman to bring in Duchesne. If it's one of the top 4, I think they're crazy. Because their top 4 is fantastic. And then it would put Emelin into a position where he's top 4, and then all bets are off. The Flyers? Do the Flyers want JVR back? Not really. I can't see it. Would Toronto trade within the division with Montreal? Well, Montreal doesn't have the defense. Montreal would love James Van Riemsdyk on that wing. On any wing. Because they need offense. But they don't have blue liners to trade. Unless Bergevin loses his mind and trades out Noah Juleson to Toronto for James Van Riemsdyk, and then he can turn in his resignation notice because he's going to have a lot of Montreal fans showing up at his door telling him it's time for him to go. So, who's left? Part of the problem for me is this. Is I always see the same names coming up. Duchesne's going to get traded by Colorado. Okay? For who? From where? Oh, this team's been in contact with them. Okay, I don't doubt that. But me picking up the phone and inquiring about another team's assets doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to be willing to give up what they want for it. So, for me anyways, if you trade out JVR, you lose experience. The experience up front, Marleau has experience. Tons of experience. Martin is an experienced forward. Komarov is an experienced forward. Neither of them belong in the top 6, though. Komarov did yeoman's work 2 years ago. I don't think he can be expected to do it again. You've got Matthews, Kadri, Bozak. Bozak's a good forward, versatile. Maybe can step into Van Riemsdyk's spot. But is more likely that Kadri, and then you don't want Kadri on a wing and Bozak second line center because he's not. Bozak ideally is a third line center. He sort of reminds me of Nugent Hopkins in Edmonton. Ideally, he's playing third line. Moore's not top 6. Connor Brown can step in. Hyman is borderline top 6. He's probably better suited at third line. Nylander and Marner are definitely top 6. You trade out Van Riemsdyk, the top 6 suddenly gets a little sketchy in terms of its experience level. And let's just say, Marleau's 38. The odds of him getting injured increases because of age. It's just part of getting older. Take it from me. If you trade out JVR, and then God forbid Marleau gets hurt, say middle of October, and it's an ACL sprain or something's going to keep him out for a while, who's the experienced leader that takes over Toronto and prevents a complete implosion? I know people want Matthews to be the leader and the center, and he's the center of attention, which is fine. He can be captain, but he doesn't have that experience level. And guys like Gauthier, Kapanen, and Reichel, Kapanen can step in right now and play. Not experienced. Gauthier, not experienced. Reichel, maybe not an NHLer. And then your experience on the blue line is also sketchy beyond Hainsey. And this is where the issue comes in for me. Whenever I hear about, Toronto's going to trade Van Riemsdyk, the first thing that occurs to me is, okay, but he's a good veteran. and you've already got Horton and Lupul that you're paying to sit up in the press box that go on to LTIR. Lupul, as injury prone as he is, it would be nice for experience sake to have him in this lineup. So that's my only issue with the whole idea of trading JVR, is that you need experience back. You don't just need a defenseman back, you need experience back. Because everybody talks about how inspirational the Penguins were. Part of the reason the Penguins got to where they did is that a lot of the role players, very experienced guys, their panic threshold was very, very low. Or very, very high, I guess. The panic threshold of kids is low, for the most part. Sure, Toronto could be completely different. Toronto could buck that trend and maybe everything turns out fantastic. But part of the reason that Edmonton turned a corner this year was they brought in a couple of more experienced, bigger, stronger guys who could sort of help, which was Maroon and Lucic. Van Riemsdyk and Marleau are not going to confuse anybody in terms of, wait, is that Lucic or is that Van Riemsdyk? Is that Patrick Maroon or is that Marleau? Not good, completely different players. But the experience level is still there. Just had to pause for a second there. Cat fight broke out. Alright, so here's the question I'm asking, and this is mainly Leafs fans. If you trade out Van Riemsdyk, do you bring in another veteran forward, a utility forward, say Yager-ish, but with less cap hit, obviously? I just can't think of another, maybe, you know, Iginla. Where do you put Iginla on this roster? I don't know. But to me, trading out JVR, there's an experience level there. What do you get back? So where do you trade him? What comes back? That's what I always have said to people. Do your homework. Show your work. It's like high school. Okay, how did you get to that answer? Show your work. I do that. And I agree. This Toronto roster looks really, really good. This is a playoff team. This is a potential contender next spring. The right moves have to be made, and I trust Lou Lamoriello to make them. What move do you make? Let me know what you think. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, and thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you guys again soon.